Oh there. So this isn't exactly the next video I wanted to make, but there's some things that need to be said. There are actually good AI out there, and every time I need to mention to somebody on a team or whatever that, like, hey, I'm going to try using AI for something, they look at me like I have six heads. So I get it. There's a connotation around AI as being something that steals people's time, people's jobs, that it like drains lakes of their water. I understand. But there are some AIs that just don't have that type of impact, and it honestly can do quite a bit of good for visual arts and pipelines for visual arts. So I thought I'd go over them. Hi, I'm Kevin. I'm a technical artist. I've worked on film and virtual realities for years. It's been entertaining. I guess I'm most notably known for my work at Blue Sky Studios. Rest in peace. But like the Ice Age films, if you're familiar. It seems more and more common. I need to describe the differences between MDE, pose estimation, and diffusion models to individuals that I feel like should already be using this technology. So I thought I would go over the differences between some of these things. If you're familiar with Comfy UI, if you've used it to generate images in the past, you might already be familiar with some of these AIs I'm going to be going over. They're included for free in Comfy UI. You can access them right now. And you can download Comfy UI and try them out after this if you're not familiar with it. I'll put links and resources in the description below. So, the first one I mentioned, MDE, Monocular Depth Estimation. I love this thing. This thing is probably my favorite bit of AI technology that has come out in so long. I love it because it helps you detect depth in your scene. And I'm just recording on a webcam. I don't have any sort of depth information. I'm not using a fancy cam that knows that there's information around that I have access to. So you can use things like MiDaS, you can use things like LeRes and Zoe. I would suggest starting out with MiDaS because what that also gives you is normal map information. Now, if you're a visual artist, you might be ablaze with like as much as lightning bugs on a twilight spring, you know? It's a beautiful thing. But for those of you who are unaware of what this could give you, let's say you want to change perspective in your scene. Or let's say you want to blur the background a little bit. Or maybe relight it just a touch. There's a lot you could do with this. Editing Kevin here. Microsoft just released David while I'm editing the video. Yeah, it is way better than MiDaS, LeRes, or Zoe. They're link in the description. Check it out. It helps with, I guess, the rotoscoping side of things. And if you're familiar with rotoscoping, it's a lot of time and effort to produce these things. And that sounds scary to you that your job might be taken. This is more of a garbage mask. It's a garbage mat. It's not something that you would rely on. It gives an estimation of how far away things are. If anything, it would help guide you with your rotoscoping. Now, how about that good old FBI enhance?
Enhance.
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 Just print the damn thing!
Well, we got that today. It's called ESRGAN. It's the Enhanced Super Resolution Generative Adversarial Network. A bit of a mouthful, I realize, but what it does is in the name. It enhances and becomes super resolution. Probably the best use case for it that I could give you an example of is, let's say you have a VHS tape recording and it's really low res, it's 640 by 480, and it's, you know, it has all the grain of the analog to digital going on from the head reading, whatever. You can use one of these, you can use an ESRGAN to actually up-res it to 4K and remove all of that analog noise patterns in there. Or let's say instead of using a VHS up-reser model, you use, let's say, a JPEG artifact remover model on the VHS tape. It'll then scale it up and introduce these noise patterns in it that actually create more detail in a way that complements the really low res like video footage. It's one of these things that you can use it to either create a really sharp image from something, or you can even kind of stylize. Now, I am not going to say this is ethical. A lot of it is trained on anime from the 90s. A ton of it is trained on anime from the 90s. But in its output, it is incapable of reproducing what it was trained on. So I kind of draw the line there. Yes, it was trained on copyrighted material, but a lot of them don't need to be. It's literally a system going, hey, this is what it looks like when it's tiny. This is what it should look like when it's big. Okay, let me try changing some of the pixels. Nah, that wasn't quite right. All right, let me try again. Change some pixels. Nah, that was a little bit better. All right, let me try changing some pixels some more. Yeah, no, I kind of like that. That's much better. Oh, cool. That's what it means to be adversarial. That A in GAN at the end there. So, you know, because it can't reproduce its input data and it's simply training on how to up-res things, you can understand why people would get anime from the 90s and let's say the Blu-ray or DVD, whatever version of the same anime to train on them, saying this is what the bad SD version looks like and this is what the higher res version looks like. And these days we have 4K and even upwards of 8K, so we have the ability of actually training these models to be helpful. I use it quite frequently on my pixel art. I'll up-res things just to see if my own gradients that I'm painting in are the shape that they actually should be. Because it's trying to up-res from a low res, it understands what pixels around each other should be doing as a whole. So you throw in a pixel art, it'll scale it up, and you can easily see that, oh, that handle on that like sword is kind of bent. I should probably change the gradient in that pixel art. It helps. It's a review tool at that point. Personally, I use the program Cup Scale. It's very useful. It runs on its own. It is not node based. It doesn't run in Comfy UI. You just feed it in a model that you want to use. You can chain models together one after the other, and it'll produce these images that you can kind of look around and actually take a look at it before you hit save on it and just output. The problem with Comfy UI is you set the model, hit go, it'll display it for you, and you can zoom in, but it's like, you know, it's just easier for me to think about, I'm just going to do 30% of one model and 70% of another model, get it mixed in, see a tiny chunk of it. Nah, that's not exactly the mix, because you can isolate down chunks. So, nevertheless, just to go over at least, if you are looking for models, there is openmodeldb.info. They have literal hundreds of models that you can download and look at. But I must say, whenever you start to explore any AI, make sure you just keep an eye on your task manager, keep an eye on your resources, make sure everything's running as it should, that things aren't taking too long. Like doing an up-res of a model should only take a couple of seconds, maybe 30 seconds. Doing like pose estimation should be able to run real time, like 30 frames a second. Doing MDE should be about, 4 seconds at most. And I'm saying this as somebody with a laptop that's 2 years old running all of these. You can run this on your computer. So give it a look, Oh, I said pose estimation a little bit too early now, didn't I? Brings us to pose estimation. So this is the one that helps you figure out where a person's body is in space, where their arms are, where their hands are, where their face is. It's actually quite useful. It helps you map out where an individual is in the screen. Now, I guess if you're an animator, you might be a little concerned, but this would be like a rough pass, like if you're doing a motion capture suit, that type of thing. You'd still need to go in and do all the corrective animation on it afterwards, stylize the animation to your own needs. Although, to be fair, when we were recording any video footage for animation as reference, we were always like in character animating out anyway. So, the type of models that are available that are good to look into if you're curious for doing like just skeletal tracking would be OpenPose, MediaPipe, and PoseNet. Now, the most important one, I would say, is MediaPipe. MediaPipe can run in your browser and on your phone and run real time at will. It's a delight. It's super low energy, runs real quick. It can run real time. That just kind of brings us to all of the other low power stuff. Since there is a bit of a concern over how many lakes per hour AI consumes, it would be best to, I guess, kind of familiarize ourselves with the lower end side of things. So if you're familiar with AI, maybe a little bit deeper than just like branding, right? You might be familiar with something called TensorFlow. And if not TensorFlow, maybe PyTorch, but I'll be talking about TensorFlow is a framework to build AI in. Now there's a version called TensorFlow Lite built in JavaScript that is allowed to be easily accessed on the internet, and you can add AI to your website at will. It's super easy. You can download from a content, a CNN online, a CDN online, or something like that. Easy to access. So how am I using this? Well, I've made a game engine over the last couple of years using it specifically for 3JS, but it's a full game engine. So I thought it'd be fun to add a plugin, like a VTuber plugin. So I got my TensorFlow Lite, I got my media pipe, and I started connecting them up so that it can track me as a person and map my movement to how I set up. Well, I guess I'm going to use my little rabbit dude from my website as my control, as my rig that I'm puppeting, I guess. So this is a project that I'm in the process of making. It won't be done for a little while, but I thought it'd be fun to make a VTuber that sort of learns how to animate to me based on my skeleton movement. It won't use any MDE. That's a little bit too heavy to run in real time in your browser, but I don't need that per se. I just need to tell it how to respect where my shoulders are in the screen. If it knows that my shoulders are a little bit smaller, I'm probably farther away from the camera. If it knows they're a little bit larger, I'm probably closer. It's simple mapping at that point. But to be able to train an AI to understand how that mapping works so it knows how to do some speaking for me, you know. That's mostly just what I wanted to record and what I wanted to say. It's if you hear somebody say AI, I for how many times I've said AI to people, I don't want individuals to be caught off guard. That's like, oh, they're stealing somebody's job, they're stealing somebody's artwork. No. Like, I mean, there's good AI out there, or at least helpful AI that won't steal somebody's job. And I think if we're more aware of those, we might start to at least not say AI on its own. We might have to say generative models, which people do, but that also includes ChatGPT. So that's an LLM. And a diffusion model is just a diffusion model. So if we start to talk about diffusion art and we start talking about LLM generation, it's very specified when we say AI. I guess to that point, there is one good diffusion model I found while I was digging around, and it was Photoshop's. They're trained on stock footage, Adobe stock, I should say, which in the terms of service, you agreed that they could use your uploads and anything that's on stock to their desires. So they trained on it, along with open public domain content. So I think out of all of the diffusion models I checked out, Photoshop's was the most ethical I found. So check down the description below for resources, things that you can download, open source pieces, where you can find models, some resources on training data. Investigate AI for yourself. It's fun. It's pretty fun. It's pretty fun. So I guess have a good day.